My wife convinced me to invest $250, $0 in her business. Then she pocketed the money and secretly married her boss behind my back. Now she's claiming half my inheritance in a bitter court battle over our home worth $1.2 million. I never thought I'd be the guy whose wife turns out to be a liar and a cheat. But here I am. The most unexpected moment hit me like a freight train, finding out that everything I believed in was a lie. It started with small signs, nothing too obvious but enough to make me suspicious. I always thought Sarah was a little too ambitious, a little too eager to talk about her big plans, but I never imagined she'd steal from me and then marry her boss behind my back. That was the real kick in the teeth. We had been together for over 10 years. I met Sarah when I was fresh out of college, working my way up in the finance world. She was smart, beautiful, and seemed genuinely into me. We got married about 5 years ago, and I thought we were building something solid. She always claimed she wanted a big family, a nice house, a future where we could relax and enjoy the fruits of our labor. I worked hard, made decent money, and trusted her completely until that trust started to crack. It all began subtly. Small things, really. She'd get more secretive with her phone, always hiding her screen when I walked into the room. She'd suddenly get calls at odd hours, and when I asked about them, she'd brush it off with a bitchy attitude, saying I was paranoid or insecure. I'd catch her lying about where she was going or who she was with. Nothing that screamed cheating, but enough to make my gut tell me something was off. Then, about 6 months ago, she started talking about her business ideas. Sarah always had a knack for sales and marketing, but her latest obsession was a startup, an online store selling eco-friendly products. She convinced me to invest a hefty $250, $0 of our savings into her business, money I'd worked my ass off for. She promised me it was a sure thing, that she'd make it big, and I'd see a return in no time. I was skeptical but trusted her enough to go along with it. After all, she was convincing, passionate, and I wanted to support her dreams. But here, where things got weird, the money disappeared and she never showed me any real proof of her progress. I'd ask for receipts, bank statements, anything concrete, but she'd dodge the questions, say I was being paranoid, or accuse me of not trusting her. That should have been a red flag, but I was blinded by love and the hope that she was telling the truth. Then the biggest shock came when I started noticing her behavior changing at home. She'd come home late, smelling like perfume I didn't recognize, with lipstick marks on her collar. She'd get defensive when I asked about it, say I was imagining things or that I was overreacting. But I found a lipstick that wasn't ours, a designer brand I knew she couldn't afford, tucked away in her purse one day. I also noticed she started taking a lot more business trips, claiming they were meetings or networking events, but I could tell she was hiding something. One night I decided to follow her after work. I had this nagging feeling that I was missing something, and I needed to see for myself. I followed her to a fancy hotel downtown where she went into a suite with a man I didn't recognize. She was laughing, whispering, way too intimate. I saw them kiss through the crack in the door. That moment hit me like a punch in the stomach. My wife, my partner, was cheating on me with her boss, someone she had convinced me was just a business contact. I couldn't believe it. I stood there, watching her press her lips against his, feeling a mix of rage, betrayal, and heartbreak. I wanted to scream, to storm in and confront her right then and there, but I couldn't. Instead, I backed away slowly, my mind racing. How long had this been going on? How could she lie to my face about her business while she was secretly married to her boss? The pieces started falling into place, and I realized I'd been played for a fool. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything I saw, trying to piece together how I missed the signs, how I trusted someone who was capable of this level of deception. I felt stupid, angry, and deeply hurt. All those years, all that effort, and she was out there screwing her boss and lying to my face. I wondered how many times she had lied to me about her business trips or her meetings. The betrayal cut deep, and it left me questioning everything. I knew I had to confront her. I couldn't keep pretending I didn't see what I saw. But I also knew that this wasn't just about infidelity. It was about betrayal on a financial level too. She convinced me to invest so much money into her dreams, and now I found out she pocketed it all, probably splurged on her lover and left me holding the bag. I felt like a fool for trusting her, for believing she loved me enough to be honest even when I had my doubts. The next morning I made a plan. I was going to get to the bottom of this, find out exactly how deep her lies went, and figure out what I was going to do about it. I wasn't going to let her get away with it. The betrayal was too raw, too real. I knew I couldn't just walk away without consequences. I had to fight back, not just emotionally but financially. She had taken everything and I was left to pick up the pieces of a life I thought I knew. So now I'm here trying to process everything, trying to decide whether to fight for my marriage or cut my losses. But one thing, for sure, Sarah's betrayal has changed everything. I never thought I'd be the guy betrayed by his wife, especially not in such a brutal way. And honestly, I don't know if I'll ever fully trust again. After discovering her cheating, everything else felt like a blur. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and my mind kept circling around the same questions. How long has she been lying? How many times did she cheat behind my back? And most importantly, what the hell was I supposed to do now? I never imagined I'd be the guy whose wife secretly married her boss and stole $250,000 from us. It was like a bad movie I couldn't wake up from. The next few days were a nightmare. I started digging through our financial records, emails, and her phone. I needed answers, and I was determined to find them. I found a string of emails between her and her boss, Mark, an aggressive, slick guy who always seemed a little too charming for his own good. They'd been planning something, I could tell. She kept referring to the project, the deal, and future plans in a way that didn't add up. And then I found the receipts, hotel bills, dinners, and gifts bought for Mark, all paid for with the money I'd invested in her business. It was all there. She'd been funneling money into her secret life. I found bank transfers that were never declared, cash withdrawals that made no sense, and a series of secret meetings. It all pointed to one thing. She'd been lying to me for months, maybe longer. The big shock was when I found a divorce petition she filed online, claiming she was estranged and seeking separation, even though she was living a double life, married to her boss. I'd had enough. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. I thought I knew her, but she was a master manipulator. She convinced me to invest in her business, knowing full well she was using that money for her own affairs. She told me she was building our future, but she was really building her own. It was infuriating. I felt humiliated, betrayed, and furious all at once. I had to confront her, but I also knew I needed to be strategic. I couldn't just burst into her house and accuse her of everything. I had to gather evidence, plan my moves carefully. One night, I decided to go to her place unannounced. I wanted to catch her in the act if I could. I waited outside in my car, watching her come home late one evening. She looked different, more confident, more alive. She was wearing that same smirk I'd seen in the hotel photos. She knew I was onto her. I saw her sneak into the house and I followed, trying to stay hidden. I crept around back and saw her open a door to her office. Inside, she was on her phone, whispering to someone. I couldn't hear everything, but I saw her smile in a way I'd never seen before. That's when I saw him, Mark. They were talking about their future, the house, and getting everything they wanted. I couldn't believe it. My wife was planning to leave me, marry her boss, and take all the money I'd worked so hard to build. I felt a cold wave of rage wash over me. How could she do this? How could she lie for so long and then turn around and plan her escape with another man? I snapped pictures of them through the window, my hands trembling. I knew I couldn't confront her then, not without a plan. I had to get more evidence, figure out how deep this rabbit hole went, and decide what my next move was. I also knew I needed legal advice. She was already filing for divorce, and I had no idea what I was going to do about the financial mess she'd created. The betrayal hit me harder than I ever thought possible. I'd given her everything, my love, my trust, my savings, and she'd used me. She convinced me to invest in her business, promising a future, while she was secretly planning to leave me, marry her boss, and take half of everything I owned, our house, our savings, my inheritance. She was a master liar, and I was just a fool who thought I had a partner for life. I spent the next few days trying to process what I'd seen and what I'd uncovered. I realized I had to act fast. I contacted a lawyer, explained everything, and started preparing for what was coming. I knew she was planning her big move, and I had to protect myself, my money, my assets, and my dignity. I also started reaching out to friends and family, trying to make sense of it all and get some support. Honestly, I felt like I was drowning. The pain of betrayal was overwhelming. I kept asking myself what I did wrong, where I went wrong, but deep down I knew this wasn't about me. It was about her greed, her lies, her willingness to destroy everything we had built together for her own selfish reasons. I kept thinking about all those years of trust, all those moments I thought meant something, and how she'd thrown it all away for a quick fling and a new marriage. But I also knew I wasn't going down without a fight. I had to stand up for myself, for what was rightfully mine, and for the truth. She might have thought she could cheat, lie, and steal in silence, but I was determined to expose her for who she really was. That's where I am now, trying to figure out how to fight back against a woman who's shown she's willing to do anything to get what she wants. And honestly, it's terrifying, but I know I can't let her get away with it, not without a serious fight. After gathering all the evidence and speaking with my lawyer, I started to see just how deep Sarah's lies ran. It wasn't just the affair or the money she stole. It was the entire foundation of trust that I'd built over a decade crumbling before my eyes. I couldn't believe I'd been so naive, so trusting. She convinced me to pour $250,000 into her business, money I'd worked my whole life to accumulate, only for her to pocket it and use it to fuel her secret life. And to top it off, she was planning to marry her boss behind my back, claiming I was not supportive enough or some crap like that, just so she could justify her betrayal. I knew I had to act fast. The divorce papers she filed were just the beginning. I needed to get ahead of her plans and protect what was mine. I started digging into her finances even more, trying to find out exactly how much she'd taken, where it went, and whether she'd hidden anything else. The more I looked, the angrier I got. I found accounts she'd opened in her name, offshore accounts, and even a few shell companies she'd set up, probably to hide the money she'd stolen. I also discovered that she'd been secretly transferring assets, probably to her new life with Mark, her boss. One thing I couldn't ignore was the house. Our house. It was worth about $1.2 million, and she was claiming half of it in the divorce. She argued that she deserved a share because she contributed to the home's value, even though she hadn't paid for it directly. But I knew the truth. She was trying to take everything I had left, including my inheritance, which I was set to receive soon. That inheritance was supposed to secure my future after all this mess, and now she was trying to claim a piece of that too. It was infuriating. I decided I needed to meet her face to face, not just for the confrontation, but to get some answers. I scheduled a meeting at her lawyer's office where I expected her to be defensive and manipulative. But when she showed up, she was even more bitchy and condescending than I remembered. She accused me of snooping, said I was crazy for suspecting her, and claimed she was the real victim in all of this. She spun a web of lies about how she was trying to save our marriage, how she never cheated, and how I was just jealous and paranoid. I couldn't take her bullshit anymore. I told her I had proof, evidence of her affair, the secret marriage, the stolen money, everything. Her face contorted with anger and she started yelling, calling me possessive, insecure, and a terrible husband. She said I was ruining her life, that she was done with this whole charade, and that she'd win in court anyway because she had her lawyer and her lies. But I knew better. I'd already documented everything and I had a good case. The emotional toll was brutal. I felt of feelings, shock, betrayal, rage, sadness. I kept replaying moments of our life together, wondering where it all went wrong. I trusted her, loved her, and now I was left with nothing but a trail of lies and stolen money. I was furious that she could be so manipulative, so heartless. But at the same time, I felt hurt. Deep down, I'd always believed she loved me. That belief shattered when I saw her with Mark, planning her escape. Despite all this, I couldn't let her see how much she'd hurt me. I had to stay composed, play it smart. My lawyer advised me to keep detailed records, not to confront her directly without witnesses, and to prepare for a long fight in court. The goal was clear: protect my assets, prove her deception, and make sure she didn't get away with stealing everything I worked for. The hardest part was realizing I might lose her, not just the marriage, but the trust I'd had in someone I thought was my partner for life. It made me question everything about relationships, about trust, about how even the people closest to us can turn out to be complete strangers in the end. I never thought I'd be sitting here, fighting to keep what's mine against someone I loved. But I also knew I couldn't let her take everything without a fight. I had to stand my ground for my future and for what was rightfully mine. Now I'm at a crossroads. Do I try to salvage what I can, or do I cut my losses and start over? I keep thinking about the inheritance I'm about to get, the house, and the money she stole. Part of me wants to make her pay, to make her regret every lie, every betrayal. Part of me just wants to walk away and forget this whole nightmare. But I know I have to fight, not just for the money, but for my dignity. I can't let her walk all over me, not after everything she's done. This whole ordeal has opened my eyes to how fragile trust really is, and how dangerous it can be to believe in someone too much. I've learned that people can hide who they really are, and sometimes the biggest betrayals come from those closest to us. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I won't make the same mistake again. No matter what happens in court, I've realized one thing: I'm done trusting blindly. I'll rebuild, even if it takes everything I have. The legal battle is now in full swing, and I've never felt so drained in my life. Every day feels like a new assault, more lies uncovered, more betrayals revealed. My lawyer keeps telling me to stay calm, to stick to the facts, but inside I'm boiling over with rage. It's not just about the money anymore. It's about justice, about making her pay for what she's done. I've spent countless hours reviewing every email, every bank transfer, every piece of evidence I have. It's like putting together a puzzle, and I know I've got enough pieces to paint a clear picture of her deception. She's been trying to spin her story, of course. Claims that she's the victim, that she never cheated, that I'm just jealous and controlling. She's even gone as far as claiming I'd been emotionally abusive, that I was crazy for suspecting her. It's typical Sarah, lying her way out of everything, twisting facts, and trying to manipulate the situation. But I have everything documented. The hotel receipts, the secret emails, the photos from that night at her house. Nothing she says can erase the truth. The biggest challenge has been dealing with her lawyer. He's a slick guy, good at what he does, and he's been trying to dismiss my evidence, claim it's all circumstantial. But I'm not stupid. I know she's been lying for months. I've got her dead to rights. The problem is she's also a master manipulator, and she's already been spinning stories to the judge, claiming she's the wronged wife and the victim of a jealous husband. I can't let her get away with it. I've got to keep pushing, keep fighting, and make sure the truth comes out. One thing that's been bothering me is her attempt to claim half the house. I know she's trying to take everything, including the inheritance I was supposed to receive soon. She argues that she contributed to the home's value, that she's entitled because she's been married to me for years. But I have the deeds, the bank statements, proof of her financial deception. I've also started digging into her accounts, trying to find any hidden assets or offshore accounts she might have set up. If I can find evidence of her hiding money, I can crush her claim in court. Meanwhile, she's been making her moves. Last week, she showed up at the house with a moving truck, claiming she was taking her things because she was done with the marriage. But I knew it was just her way of trying to intimidate me, to show she was serious about taking everything. I didn't stop her, but I made sure to document everything: photos, videos, and witness statements from neighbors. I also called my lawyer immediately afterward to discuss restraining orders, just in case she tried something more aggressive. The emotional toll is almost unbearable. I feel like I've been hit by a truck every morning when I wake up. I keep replaying all the moments I missed, all the signs I ignored, and I wonder if I could have done something differently. But deep down, I know I couldn't have. She was good at hiding her lies better than I thought. It's made me realize how blind love can be, how easily someone can manipulate you when you're vulnerable. I trusted her. I believed she loved me. but it was all a lie. I've also started to lean on friends and family for support, even though I don't want to appear weak. They've been telling me to stay strong, to not let her win. My parents are furious, especially my dad, who keeps telling me I deserve better. That's the thing, it's not just about the money or the house. It's about respect, about being with someone who's honest and genuine. I guess I lost sight of that somewhere along the line. Now I'm trying to focus on myself. I've started going to therapy, trying to process all these feelings: anger, sadness, betrayal. It's helping, but I still feel this gnawing emptiness inside. Part of me still hopes she'll come clean, admit everything, and maybe we can fix this. But I know that's wishful thinking. She's too far gone, caught up in her lies, and I don't think she cares about us anymore. She's more interested in her new life, her new marriage, and her stolen money. What scares me most is the possibility that I might lose everything: my home, my inheritance, my sense of stability. But I also realize that holding on to anger and resentment isn't going to fix anything. I have to accept what's happened, learn from it, and move forward. The court case is just a chapter in this nightmare, but I know I'll come out of it stronger, even if it doesn't feel that way now. I've come to realize that betrayal cuts deeper than any financial loss. It's a blow to your identity, your trust in people, and your sense of security. But I also know I can't let her define me. I have to rebuild my life, piece by piece, and find a way to move on. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I won't let her steal my peace of mind forever. I'll fight for what's rightfully mine, and someday I hope to look back at this and say I survived and I learned how to trust myself again. The court hearings have become a brutal marathon. Every session feels like a battle. Her lawyer throws everything he can to dismiss my evidence, claim it's circumstantial, or spin her version of the story. But I've got mountains of proof: hidden bank accounts, emails, hotel receipts, and witness statements. Still, it's exhausting. It's like trying to fight a snake with your bare hands, knowing she's manipulative, cunning, and willing to lie her way out of anything. One of the hardest parts is watching her in court, pretending to be innocent, acting like she's the wronged wife. She's so bitchy and condescending, throwing accusations at me, claiming I was controlling, jealous, and emotionally abusive. She's good at twisting facts and turning the tables. But I've learned to stay calm, stick to the truth, and let my evidence do the talking. Still, it hurts to see her lie with such ease, knowing she's willing to destroy everything we built just to get what she wants. The fight over the house is heating up. She's claiming half of it, saying she contributed to its value, even though she didn't pay a dime for it. I have the deeds proving I bought it before we married, and I've brought in appraisals and bank statements to support my case. Her lawyer argues that she deserves a fair share because she invested time and helped improve the property. It's a load of crap, but she's good at spinning stories. I know she's also trying to claim my inheritance. She's filed papers claiming she's entitled to part of it because she's married to me, even though the inheritance is separate property. The emotional toll is becoming unbearable. Every day feels like an emotional. I'm angry, betrayed, and exhausted. I keep asking myself how I didn't see this coming, how I let her manipulate me for so long. I trusted her, loved her, and she turned around and used me. The worst part is knowing she's already planning her future with Mark, married, with my money and my house. It's like watching someone walk away with everything, leaving me with nothing but heartbreak and a pile of legal bills. But I refuse to give up. I've started to realize that fighting isn't just about winning the case, it's about reclaiming my dignity. I've been working on my mental health, trying to stay grounded amid the chaos. I've talked to a therapist about the betrayal, how it's affecting my trust, my self-esteem. It's helping me understand that it's okay to feel broken for a while, but I can't let her win by breaking me entirely. One thing I've learned is that she's still trying to manipulate the situation. She's been making little moves, sending me passive-aggressive texts, trying to sway the judge with her fake tears and sob stories. I see through it. I know her game now. She's desperate to keep the house, the money, and her new life. But I've got people on my side, my lawyer, friends, family, who see her for what she really is. They tell me to stay strong, to keep fighting, and that this isn't over yet. The worst part is the uncertainty. I don't know how this will turn out. Will she walk away with half the house? Will she get a chunk of my inheritance? Or will justice prevail? Every night I lie awake wondering if I've done enough, if I should push harder, if I should settle just to get it over with. But deep down, I know I can't let her get away with this. Not after all the lies, the theft, and the betrayal. I have to stand my ground. I also realize I've changed. I used to trust easily, believe in the good in people. Now I see the world differently. I'm more guarded, more cautious. But I've also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. I've faced betrayal, heartbreak, and financial ruin, and I'm still standing. That's what keeps me going, knowing I'll survive this, even if it takes everything I have. Looking ahead, I know I'll need time to heal. I'll need to rebuild my life piece by piece. I'll probably never fully trust anyone again, but I'll learn to trust myself. I've learned that betrayal can come from the people you love most, and it can leave scars that take years to fade. But I also believe that eventually you can find peace even after losing everything. I have to believe in that, or I'll never move on. This whole experience has taught me to be smarter, more cautious. Never again will I invest so much trust without watching every move, every word. Never again will I ignore the small signs of deception. And most importantly, I've learned that standing up for myself is the only way to get through this. I might be battered, bruised, and exhausted, but I'm still here, still fighting. And I won't stop until I see justice done. The court finally reached a decision, but it wasn't the clean victory I'd hoped for. The judge was sympathetic, saw through her manipulative stories, and awarded me the house, the inheritance, and a significant portion of the assets she tried to claim. Still, the process left a bitter taste. She walked away with her pride bruised, but I knew she'd do everything in her power to spin it as justice for her suffering, not as a consequence of her lies and betrayal. Standing there as she packed up her things and left the house we once shared, I felt a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. Relief because I finally had clarity, proof that I was right all along. The emptiness because I realized how much I had lost: trust, love, stability. The woman I thought I knew had been a stranger hiding behind a mask of charm and lies. I watched her turn her back and walk out that door, knowing that the woman I loved and trusted had betrayed me in the worst way possible. In the days that followed, I slowly began to rebuild what I'd lost. I started focusing on myself, therapy, reconnecting with friends, and reestablishing routines I'd abandoned during the chaos. I realized I'd been living in a state of denial, clinging to the hope that she'd change or come clean, but that hope was gone now. I had to accept that the woman I loved was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. The betrayal had changed me, but it also made me stronger. Looking back, I see how naive I was to trust so blindly. I was blinded by love, by the hope of a future together, and by my own need to believe in the best in people. I let her manipulate me, convince myself she was telling the truth, ignoring the signs that were glaringly obvious. I let her convince me to invest our savings, to believe in her business, all while she was secretly living a double life. That was my mistake, trusting too much, too fast. But I also learned a lot from this nightmare. I learned that betrayal can come from the people closest to us, and it's not always easy to spot until it's too late. I learned that standing up for myself, no matter how hard, is the only way to reclaim your dignity. I learned that sometimes the truth will come out no matter how much someone tries to hide it, and justice may take time, but it will come. I learned that I am resilient, even when I feel broken, and that my worth isn't tied to someone else's lies. Most importantly, I learned to trust myself again. I might never fully trust someone as blindly as I once did, but I know now that I am capable of surviving the worst kind of betrayal. I've come to accept that life is unpredictable, and sometimes the people we love the most can hurt us the deepest. But I also believe that healing is possible, that time, patience, and a commitment to truth can help rebuild what was lost. Today, I'm slowly moving forward. I've started a new chapter, one where I focus on my own happiness and stability. I've learned that life doesn't end with betrayal. It simply forces you to become stronger, wiser, and more cautious. I still carry scars, but they remind me of how far I've come. I refuse to let her define my future. I will rebuild, I will trust again, more carefully this time, and I will never let anyone manipulate me like that again. Looking back on everything, I realize that this experience, as painful as it's been, has given me clarity I never had before. I see now that love isn't just about trust, it's about respect, honesty, and mutual integrity. I know I deserve someone who values that, who won't lie or cheat or steal from me, and I will find that person someday. For now, I focus on healing, on reclaiming my life, and on the knowledge that I am capable of surviving even the darkest storms. In the end, I've learned that betrayal isn't the end. It's a painful but necessary lesson. It teaches you to be cautious, to be resilient, and to never lose sight of your worth. I may have lost her, but I've gained a new understanding of what it means to stand up for myself, to fight for what's right, and to move on with my head held high. And that, for me, is the greatest victory of all.